Hi, my name is Joshua Mutter. Welcome to my guide on how to make good machinimas. I will be using making machinimas in Minecraft as the context for this guide, since it's what I use due to its versatility. Much of this guide can be applied to other kinds of machinima, however, or even animation and film. Before I begin, I should mention that I am in no way suggesting that my own machinimas are of outstanding quality. There are YouTubers less popular than me who make what I consider to be high quality machinimas. I merely believe I have the necessary knowledge to make this guide. This guide is in fact partially a way of reminding myself what to do. If you can't see what's wrong with some of my previous machinimas, maybe you will be able to after watching this guide. There will be 5 sections to this guide: concept and narrative, mise-en-scene, filming, directing and cinematography, editing and sound, and distribution. So without further ado, let's begin. Just remember that although you should heed some theories, making machinimas is a creative process. Every machinima has to of course begin with a concept. Without a good concept you can't have a good machinima. Unfortunately, it is not easy to force your brain to come up with a good concept and requires a creative mind. I often come up with my concepts while having a shower or lying awake in bed. Times when my mind is unstimulated and allowed to flow freely with thought. If you're more extroverted than me, however, you may find inspiration from having your mind stimulated by the world around you or other media. You may want to think about what genre your machinima is. It could be comedy, action, adventure, romance, music video, horror, and so on. Think about the conventions of your genre, and consider what conventions you like and dislike. Maybe you want something more unique or genre-defying, or you could simply ignore the idea of a genre. If your machinima is story-based, you should consider narrative theories. You should have 3 clear stages to your story: a beginning, a middle, and an end. The narrative arc is a good thing to refer to make sure you have a full and well-paced plot. It is important to consider character theories too, of which there are many. Look them up. For machinimas involving dialogue, good writing is extremely important. Having considered the roles of your characters, consider their personalities and imagine how conversation would flow between them. One of the most important things to consider is what reactions or emotions you want to evoke in the audience. What tactics will you use for your machinima to do this? Also consider how original your concept is. Has it been done before over and over again? Maybe try to make it a little less predictable. At this stage in production, you should be able to imagine what the finished product will be like in your head, pacing and all. If not, you could try making a storyboard or shot list to reference while filming. Before you get too excited and jump into filming, you need to prepare your mise-en-scene. Mise-en-scene means the visual aspects of the machinima, such as set, props, and character skins. You know what Minecraft is great for? Mise-en-scene. Everything may look blocky, but you can do whatever you like with the set and characters. If you're not so great at building pretty stuff in Minecraft, see if you can get someone to help you make everything look snazzy. Don't forget you can change the textures or download a fitting texture pack. All making skins requires is basic pixel art skills. I recommend MC Skin 3D for editing skins. If there's a prop you want in the machinima that's not in the game, you could replace the texture of an item with the texture you made for the prop. Now hold up. Don't just make stuff that looks cool. The mise-en-scene is an essential part of telling the story or setting the mood. Don't choose a bright and colourful texture pack for your horror machinima, and don't make medieval buildings for your futuristic technology-filled sci-fi machinima. Make everything fit, and consider the purpose of your choices. If you do this well enough, you can tell a story simply through the environment. So now you're ready to start filming, right? Well, you need a few things first. You need screen capture software for a start. Unfortunately, if you want to make anything remotely good, you may need to pay out. FRAPS and DXTORY are what are commonly used for capturing PC games. DXTORY is a little more complex to set up, so I recommend FRAPS if you're unsure, as it's very simple to use. This will set you back £25. There is another method of acquiring FRAPS, but I do not condone it for such relatively cheap and useful software. You may also want some mods to enhance your machinima, such as Camera Studio, Sonic Ether's Unbelievable Shaders, and Smart Moving Mod. You should probably have your own server to record on too, and there are many BUKKIT plugins which can be useful for making machinimas and sets, such as DISGUISECRAFT, Essentials, VOXELSNIPER, and WORLDEDIT. Now all you need are some puppeteers, or in other words, body actors. Choose people who are happy to help, care about the quality of the machinima, and who are mature enough not to muck around and ruin your filming. Finally, you have everything you need to film your machinima. First, let's talk about the cinematography. or more specifically, camera framing and movement. I will now demonstrate some shot types. Pay attention because this is important. Extreme long shot or establishing shot, long shot, medium close-up, close-up, extreme close-up, over-the-shoulder shot, high-angle shot, and low-angle shot. These are probably the most common types of shot and the ones that you will be mostly using. Try and use a nice variety of shots, but don't go over the top. Consider why you're using a certain kind of shot. Each shot gives off a different message or puts focus on something different. An extreme long shot is a good way to set the scene or show off the location, and is a good way to introduce a scene change. A close-up can seem dramatic and is associated with focusing on a character's reaction to something. A low-angle shot can make something seem menacing or empowered, whereas a high-angle shot can make something seem weak or insignificant. Most of your shots will probably be from eye level, however. Now let's talk about some rules of cinematography. First, one of my favourite rules, and one which I often like to tell machinima creators about, the rule of thirds. Imagine your screen is split into thirds vertically and horizontally by some lines, so you have a sort of grid with 4 points where the lines cross. These 4 points are called the points of interest. The focus or focuses of your shot should be on the lines, with points of interest, e.g. a character's head, on the points of interest. You don't need to follow this rule all the time, of course. For example, putting an object in center frame can work well. Or you can have a character in center shot, but their head is more likely to be on the upper horizontal line rather than in center frame. If the shot is showing a character looking at something off camera, and you are using the rule of thirds, you should frame it in such a way that the character is looking into the shot rather than looking towards the camera or off the closest side of the camera. Try and make things look balanced in this way. Another rule is the 180-degree rule. This one is a little harder to explain, but basically let's say two characters are talking. Each character should remain either on the left side or the right side of every shot, unless they or the camera are shown moving. Otherwise, things can be fairly disorientating. Speaking of camera movement, let's talk about panning and zooming. These camera movements can make your machinima look very cinematic and put emphasis on dramatic or tense moments or breathtaking scenes. But be careful with your use of these. You probably shouldn't have the camera being still before or suddenly after the pan or zoom in the same shot. It looks tacky and jarring. In editing, I suggest you cut out the bits before and after the movement, leaving nothing in that shot but the moment when the camera is moving. Also, don't make the camera movement too violent. Make it smooth. Make it subtle if you like. Don't go too fast unless necessary. Finally, just consider what looks good and what doesn't. If you don't have an eye for that sort of thing, you may be in trouble. Oh, and consider how much room the characters have over their heads. Don't make it too much, and don't make it look like their head is stuck to the top of the shot. Also consider how the shots will flow together. Will the shot you're about to film look good cutting in from the previous shot? Now, depending on who is puppeteering for you, directing can be a bit of a pain. You have to make sure your puppeteers get the timing right, and at the very least make it look like no movement took place between shots. And if dialogue is involved and you're using head bobs to convey speech, make sure they don't go over the top with it unless that's what you want. I could go on about filming, but we should move on. Editing, sound and music are very important aspects of a machinima on their own, but I have included them together in this section for a reason. Something I sometimes like to do is edit to music. Timing the cuts to a beat or certain events to certain parts of the music can have a really nice effect. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's start with the basics. First, you will need some video editing software. No, for goodness sake, don't use Windows Movie Maker. I personally use Sony Vegas as it is intuitive and easy to use while providing all the necessary functions I need. Try out a bunch of software and see what suits you best. Good editing is somewhat a case of good pacing and being able to tell where it is best to cut. This should be fairly simple if you know what you are doing. Consider how long a shot should last and why. Now what about sound effects? That is, if you want sound effects rather than just music. You could use the in-game sound if you had your puppeteers muted while filming, or you could copy sound effects from the Minecraft files and time them correctly in editing. For non-Minecraft sounds, you could search a site like freesound.org for what you're looking for. Things get a little more complicated if your machinima features voice acting. You need to find suitable and talented voice actors with good microphones for your characters. This is difficult, especially if you're a small channel, and therefore voice acting is risky business if you're not sure if you have the right people for the job. You also have the tedious task of making sure the footage of the characters talking matches up with the audio of them talking. And here's a tip. If there's a hissing sound in the background of your audio, put it into Audacity, which is a free audio recording and editing software, and perform noise removal. And then there's music. For me, this is an essential part of many of my machinimas. If your machinima has no dialogue, music is key to conveying emotion. Music can tell a story by itself, and as mentioned previously, if you edit to fit the music, it can turn out really well. Now if you have some musical talent and can record your own pieces, either with software and some good samples, or with instruments, that's great, since you can tailor the music to be just right for the machinima. If you're not musically inclined, or if you're not sure if your own music is good enough, don't panic. You can find royalty-free music on the internet. For example, many people often use tracks from Kevin MacLeod's vast selection. And as tempting as it may be, don't use copyrighted music. Final tips for editing. I don't recommend having an intro much longer than 5 seconds, and be sensible about how you use effects or features of your video editing software. Try and edit anything story-based in such a way that it is timed to fit the narrative arc. So you've made a machinima? Great. Time to put it on YouTube and get billions of views! Well, not really. But I can give you some tips on how to amass a following. First, you need branding. I'm not a good example of this. Choose a relevant and catchy channel username that you won't regret if things change later. If you can, make some nice graphic design and an intro and or outro that are unified in style. See the Mindbox and Crafted Movies channels for this sort of thing done right. Make a Twitter account and maybe a Facebook page, then link one to the other. It's a good way to keep your viewers in touch with what's going on. Provide some incentive for people to view your channel more than once, whether it's a series or simply an easy-to-remember schedule of releases. Probably the most important thing, however, is connecting with other Minecraft Machinima channels. My channel wouldn't be anywhere near as popular as it is right now if it weren't for Crafted Movie. Just start to get friendly with your fellow creators without being annoying or simply advertising yourself. You can start to promote each other and like each other's videos, which works very well for getting in new viewers who like the sort of thing you do. Collaboration also works very well. Also link to your video in various Minecraft fan sites or communities. I can't recommend one in particular these days, but I used to post stuff to the Minecraft subreddit which kicked off my popularity. Unfortunately, this subreddit has gone downhill and is unlikely to upvote your video. Include relevant titles, descriptions, tags and thumbnails for your videos. If you get enough popularity, you can start to monetize your videos via a partnership. You can go straight through YouTube if you have an AdSense account and if YouTube accepts your partnership. This is safe only as long as you make Minecraft videos with no copyrighted content in. Most likely though you will join a network. Networks vary from nasty to friendly, from cheap to generous, so do plenty of research and read the contract carefully before signing away your soul. I have one more tip before we end. Watch and analyse stuff, whether that be other machinimas, TV shows or movies. See what they do. Consider why they do it. Consider what they do right and wrong. Make use of this knowledge in your own machinimas. And so ends my guide to making good Minecraft machinimas. Thank you for watching, and I hope you found this useful. Again, remember that making machinimas is a creative process, and therefore creative license can be taken. Don't simply forget everything I've told you, but do remember that I don't have a degree in machinima making. If you have any questions or any alterations you'd like to make to this guide, please put them in the comments. Good luck and goodbye.